Hi, my name is Steve Gallas. I teach English here at Lake Erie College, and I'm thrilled to have received the Dawn Powell Prize for faculty fiction. So the story is called Relevant Experience. I decided to write it because I recognize that the job market is really difficult these days, and a lot of these companies ask for a lot of experience for jobs that don't necessarily reward the type of work you're doing very well. So basically what happens is I have the protagonist. His name is Seth. He goes to a job interview. We find out that it's just as a cashier at 7-Eleven, and as the interview progresses, the expectations and the interview itself get more and more ridiculous. So I'll go ahead and read an excerpt just from the beginning of the story, and then if you wish to continue, you can go ahead and read it yourself. Relevant Experience. Seth passed the front door of his potential workplace and parked in the spot closest to the dumpster. He'd done this in the hope that the hiring manager would not see his car, because the fact that he drove a Ford Fusion might lower his chances of getting hired. Seth was of the belief that the margin for error at a job interview was minuscule, and as such, he had to be at the top of his game. There was no need to risk being eliminated from contention before he'd entered the building. A bell jingled as Seth pushed the door open. An unkempt man stood at the counter, wearing a pink collared shirt garnished with a red vest. As Seth entered, the employee looked up and made eye contact with him. "Hello," he mumbled. "Hello," Seth replied, scratching his elbow. "I'm here to interview for the transaction specialist position. I'm supposed to meet with Trent." "Oh, right. He mentioned you. I'll take you to his office. Follow me." Seth obliged, and now he knew that the moment was real. The red-vested man came out from behind the counter and started for the office. As the man passed him, Seth could smell his body odor. It was formidable, like a Big Mac left in the sun for a few hours. Seth focused on the back of the man's head as they walked, his greasy hair. He probably hadn't showered for the past few days. He hoped he wouldn't have to work too many shifts with this man if hired as a transaction specialist, but he also recognized that he didn't have a choice. Jobs weren't easy to come by, and as an applicant, he didn't have any right to be picky. After a short jaunt, Seth and his potential co-worker arrived at Trent's office. There wasn't much to it. It was more of a cubby than an office, truth be told. A desk tried to tuck itself into the corner, but in reality it took up the majority of the room. Monitors sat behind stacks of loosely piled paper, playing what was being recorded on the security cameras. A bulletin board with miscellaneous notes posted on it hung skewed on the yellowed wall. Trent was perched at the desk, analyzing some documents in front of him, or at least giving the impression that he was, when the Big Mac man knocked on the door frame. Trent looked up with a mask of a smile plastered on his face. He was a paradoxically plump yet haggard man, perhaps worn down from years of middle management work. He wore a salt and pepper mustache. His most characterizing feature, however, was his double chin. It was prodigious, to say the least. One might say that it could make a bullfrog jealous. Seth had noticed the jiggle when Trent looked up. "I've got a guy here. Says he's here for an interview," the employee announced. Trent gaped over his subordinate's shoulder at Seth, who stood in the doorway. "Oh yes, right on time." "I'm Seth. Nice to meet you," Seth stammered. Trent nodded, which made his double chin expand like a ball of smushed Play-Doh, and he said, "Thanks, Krim. You can go back to the counter now." Krim nodded and ventured back to the front of the store. Seth was now alone with Trent. "That's Krim," Trent said, addressing Seth. "Did you say Jim?" "No," Trent said. "His name is Krim. Show some respect." Seth felt sweat develop on his hairline. "I'm so sorry." Trent leaned back in his chair. "I'll let it slide. You know, Krim is about the best employee we've got here. I've never seen anyone stuff more boiled eggs in their mouth at once." "Excuse me?" "It's just a team-building exercise. Builds camaraderie, and Krim does it better than anyone." "Nice," Seth replied, unsure of how to answer. Trent gestured to a plastic fold-up chair leaning on the desk. "Have a seat," he said. His smile conveyed kindness. In that expression, Seth saw a flicker of hope. Perhaps his chances hadn't yet been ruined. and he could still convince Trent that he was capable. Maybe this was the day he'd finally be employed. All right, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the start of that, and that if you do wish to read the story, you could continue on your own. Thanks again.